Good evening. I'm Lalit Pallegama. I'm actually chairman of Civil Engineering Sectional Committee of ISL. But this program we have organized not as a Civil Engineering Sectional Committee, as ISL, because previous year we have started the ISL Entrepreneurs Forum. Previous year we did 3 lectures, and this year we have planned some more programs. Not only the programs, I will explain to a little bit later. This program actually, first of all, I would like to welcome our resource person today, Mr. Rohan Pallewatta. Actually, we have decided to get him due to several reasons, because we believe the entrepreneurship will be we have to motivate our engineers in that aspects. That's our main idea, to get him to this stage today. So we discussed with our president, Professor Niranjini Ratnayaka. Actually, she was very enthusiastic to participate today this meeting, but this time she is in the meeting with another important meeting regarding, as you all know, about Singapore Act. Actually, now this time she is in the meeting with our council members, with some government officials. So that meeting scheduled very urgently. So that today morning she informed me to tell about that failure to participate this important event. Anyway, she agreed to come. After that, maybe we'll hope she will be here. Regarding Entrepreneurs Forum, actually, we have some more plans, and very recent. We are going to get some information from our engineers about those who are doing some any kind of entrepreneurship. Maybe maybe they are doing private limited, maybe partnerships, maybe some maybe freelance. There are several categories we know. So we are going to get informations. There will be a Google form will be circulated among our membership, so they can send their informations, and we plan to get those information, and we are going to request from the ISL to some place in the ISL website. So those names, maybe company names, maybe member names, those things in the website. And more than that, we are planning to discuss with banks to get some facility for our engineers to develop their entrepreneurships. Sometimes with the government also. That's the plan. That's those plans we have for the moment. This is organized under the Professional Affairs Committee. You know, we have several committees in the ISL, standing committees. ISL Professional Affairs Committee. We are in organizing Entrepreneurs Forum. That's about our forum. So I think we can get good motivational and very valuable inputs from our guest speaker today. Not only you, I think many engineers are, as you all know, engineers can get this this lecture through that website online. So there will be several engineers looking this lecture now. They are getting that real time this lecture to their computers. So that's for the moment. That's so I would like to invite our speaker, and after that we can maybe ask some questions if you have, and we'll see what is going over to you.
Some of you in the behind, you can come forward. You're comfortable there? The corridors are sweet, white shadows darken deep.
My mind does relapse in confusion. I don't know what is real, I can't touch what I feel, and I hide behind the shield of my illusion. So I continue to pretend that my life will never end, and flowers never bend with the rainfall. The mirror on my wall casts an image dark and small. I'm not sure at all it's my reflection. I'm blinded by the light of God and truth and right, and I wander in the night without direction. So I continue to pretend that my life will never end, and flowers never bend with the rainfall. No matter if you are born to play the king or pawn, the line is simply drawn to enjoy sorrow. So my fantasy becomes reality, and I must be what I must be and face tomorrow. So I continue to pretend that my life will never end, and flowers never bend with the rainfall.
Thank you. Those of you who are attending any of my presentations for the first time might be wondering what the hell is going on. But this is my own way of starting when I come and make a presentation. Back in 2016, I had the occasion to address the United Nations at their headquarters, not in Geneva, but in New York. And it was a 4-day program on sustainable development goals, where I had to deliver a speech on the 3rd day. And I wanted to start my speech with a song, as I usually do. But when I entered the UN premises in New York, I realized that the security was very stringent, because it is being said that the only property in the US that does not belong to US is the UN premises, because it is governed by the Geneva Convention. So the moment you enter the UN premises in New York, the USA law does not apply. And for that very reason, the security was very stringent. So having come to know the stringent security on the first day, I wanted to know if I could take my guitar on the 3rd day to the chamber, because that is how I intended starting my speech. But the secretary said, no, you cannot take a musical instrument to the main chamber of the UN. And then, myself being an attorney at law on one part, I knew that if I made my request in writing, and usually if someone is to reject my request, the universal law is they have to do it in writing, if my request is in writing. So on the 2nd day, I took a written request, requesting from the authorities to take my guitar to the chamber. Of course, they did not act then and there. They said, we'll look into this matter, as much as it is happening in Sri Lanka. Because there was no precedence in taking a musical instrument to the UN chamber. When there is no precedence, people hesitate to act. One of the main things that people fear is to be original. People fear being original. They always try to take refuge. They try to take cover of a decision that someone else has taken previously. So therefore, for that very reason, even in the UN in New York, no one wanted to act upon that. They said, we'll come back to you. But on the 3rd day, where I had to deliver my speech in the morning, I received a call in my hotel room. I was told that I was being permitted to take my guitar to the UN chamber. And I went to when I started my speech, of course, I started with the same song, which is originally sung by Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel. And it worked, because usually at the UN sessions, the sessions go on from about 10 o'clock in the morning till about 3 o'clock in the evening. and none of the people in the audience are interested in listening to the speeches. They sometimes wear the headphones and pretend to listen to the translation, but I see they are engrossed in their digital devices and so on. But I had a message to share for the sake of my country, and this worked. I had the attention of the full house. It was a rousing result because it's something different. But of course, this was relevant to the contents of my speech. And also, this Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel, this song was originally sung at the Central Park in New York. When you take a few stairs up in the New York headquarters, UN headquarters, you can see the Central Park afar. And when Simon and Garfunkel performed live, there was a crowd of 758,000 people to witness them perform live. And that is the biggest, highest crowd recorded in history that has attended to watch a live concert. So there was relevance that way as well. But that is not the point. At the end of the day, I was inquisitive to know as to how permission has been granted. Then they showed me the letter that I submitted in writing requesting to take the guitar to the UN chamber. And it was endorsed by no less a person than the Secretary General at that time, Mr. Ban Ki-moon himself. And he had written, "I shall never ever allow a musical instrument in the main chamber of the UN. But if a speaker uses a musical instrument as a utensil to enhance the expressions of his speech, then I shall allow, and therefore I allow." So that is how he had granted permission. So first thing that I want to inculcate is that what is it in me that did not let me take that no for an answer on the first day? Because very clearly the secretary told me, no, you cannot take a musical instrument to the chamber. So what is it in me that made me not take that no for an answer? Why did I persist? What is the attribute in me? What is the DNA in me that motivated me to persist? I think this is called passion. I was very passionate about delivering my speech starting with a song. If I was not passionate, I would have taken that no for an answer. So in life, passion can decide as to whether you are going to spend a mediocre life or whether you are going to get into the next level. Because if your motivation is you work for some company that you are getting some remuneration at the end of the month, and if that is your motivation, of course you can lead a mediocre life. But then if you want to get into a higher level than that, entrepreneurship, starting your own thing, then you got to have passion in whatever you do. Even in the present context, if you engage in something, you got to be very passionate about it, because passion should be your motivator, because you like it, you love it. But if the remuneration and other packages are the things, the reasons that are driving you to work, you will be just mediocre for the rest of your life. So that is the first thing that I want to inculcate, because the topic is entrepreneurship and innovation management. But what I will be doing in the next 1 hour is share my life experience, because that is not in the books. It is not codified as yet. So that is what I thought it is important, since I am here before you live, and I will be sharing my experience. So there is a reason for me to start with the guitar. Because it is not only this forum. Sometimes I have been invited to convocations where at the BMICH there's a crowd of about 1,500. And even the convocation address, I started with a song. I know what goes through the minds of the people, right? So if you try to close your eyes and visualize that you are invited to a convocation or a formal function to deliver a keynote, and instead of starting your speech, you pick up a guitar and begin to sing. If you close your eyes and try to catch a glimpse of the feelings that you may come across in doing so, I know the feelings. The fear of being laughed at, a fear of being ridiculed, fear of being a misfit to the occasion. This is not the conventional way as to how people start their presentations, and all these negative things cross your mind. And let me tell you, most of us do not get into the next level of life for the same fears, for the same reasons. The fear of failure. We all dare, we fear failure. But there is this special breed of people who do not want to take the paths that others have created. They want to find their own path. And 50 years ago, there was a medical opinion that if a man ran a mile under 4 minutes, that he wouldn't be in the land of living. The medical reasoning was that the human lungs did not have the capacity to produce the necessary oxygen for a man to perform such act. That was the medical opinion 50 years ago. But 50 years ago, there was a man who defied this medical opinion and ran a mile under 4 minutes. But he did not die as the doctors predicted. He was very much in the land of living. But that is not the point. Once he had established that, within the next 8 months, there were 12 others who ran a mile under 4 minutes. So most of the barriers that we have in mind in getting to the next level are psychological, are mind created, or someone has from our childhood conditioned us to believe that this is not possible. So you are going to live for the rest of your life believing in what you have been conditioned to think. You do not want to challenge your own thinking, your own consciousness. You do not want to get into the next level of consciousness. So you got to sit down and question, where am I stagnant? If you are stagnant in your life, you got to question, am I utilizing my full potential? Is this my purpose of life? Is this what I want to do? Right. But it's not easy when you take a different path. It's not easy. Now, I'm into manufacturing. I manufacture the impact sensor for the automobile airbag. That is the device that would give the signal to the airbag to pop out if there is an impact. That is the device that would recognize the impact. So now, this is the uniqueness of this component. What I manufacture is its quality requirement, which is called 1 ppm quality. 1 part per million is the defect tolerance rate. When I manufacture 1 million components, they will tolerate 1 component to be a defect. And you being engineers, most of you, you know, when it comes to quality, there's a calculation, 6 sigma. 6 sigma equals 0 defects, in theory. But if you do the calculation proper, I do not know, I think they 1 million will, 6 sigma calculation, they will 3.6 or something, we will tolerate, right? But here is a case, it is only 1 ppm, which means even 0 defects are not tolerated, because it is life and death. Because if for the impact the airbag does not come out, you may not have the occasion to get it rectified, get it repaired. Because if you have a problem with your CD player in your vehicle or some other equipment, the air conditioner, you can get it rectified, you can take it to a garage, you can get it rectified. But if for the impact the airbag does not come out, you may not have the occasion to get it rectified. And that is why that stringent quality is in place. And 1 ppm quality is the highest level of quality anywhere in the world. There is no quality beyond that. And when I embarked on this, I was told by many, with the existing work ethic of this country, that I will never ever be able to achieve that level of quality. They said, "Machang ogo hitan baat tekna. Oh karanna buluhan deyak නෙමෙයි මේ ලංකාවේ මිනිස්සුත් එක්ක." So usually, because when you have a business idea, you test your idea, and the first people that you test your idea with is your inner circle friends. You seek opinion, right? Every opinion, 99% of the opinion that I got was negative. But looking at all the great monuments built by our ancestors and the precision work that they had undertaken almost 2000 years ago, I was convinced to the contrary that this DNA must be somewhere in our people. I trusted that provided the right leadership, that I could rekindle this DNA. And I have been successful. Last year we recorded a turnover of 80 billion US dollars. 15 years ago I started my company with 27 people, and today we have close to 1,000. And last year, as I said, we recorded a turnover of 80 million US dollars. But it's not easy when you take a different path. People will, as Mahatma Gandhi said, when you take a different path, people will they will ignore you first. Then they will laugh at you, they will ridicule you. If possible, they will try to fight with you. But then you win. And the niceties of being successful is when you embark on your journey, people will say this is impossible, you cannot do it. But once you get to your destination, all those people will tell you, we knew from the beginning that you were going to get there. That's the beauty of it. So it's not easy. Now you take the event high jump. Now today, what is the technique? They clear the horizontal bar of the high jump. Today it's head first. But in the 70s, it was leg first. One Mr. Fosbury from USA tried to clear the horizontal bar of the high jump in the 70s using the technique that we are using now, the head first technique. And he was disqualified, calling it a dangerous technique. But today, not only the world accepted technique to clear the horizontal bar of the high jump is the head first technique, but it is being named after Mr. Fosbury. So that is what happens when you try to embark on something new. There will be a lot of defiance. And another thing that I want to tell you through my life experience, if you have a great idea, do not seek too many opinions. You get discouraged. It is said in Sri Lanka that if you want to lose the essence of a great idea, they say put it to a committee. Right? Nothing would happen. So when you have a great idea, as I said, develop the personality to believe in your idea, because only you know. Because people who will be advising you, they will advise you based on their experience. Because this was something new, because no one had done airbag sensors in Sri Lanka for the past 2,500 year history. So therefore, I was seeking opinion from the people who had not any experience regarding this, what I was trying to embark on. So people will be advising you, even your parents, your teachers, whoever, based on their experience. So if you are embarking on something new, none of these people are fit enough to advise you. So you got to believe, if your dream, if your vision, if your destination that you are dreaming of, right, is within the mental grasp of you, that is what matters. So within the next few minutes, what I am trying to tell you in a nutshell, as to how within 15 years from zero, how I built a company that has a turnover of 80 million US dollars. I studied at St. Anthony's College, Kandy. I see one of my colleagues from school, he's much junior to me. And soon after my O-level exams, I received a scholarship, a cultural exchange program scholarship to go to Japan. If I say that I received a scholarship to go to Japan, that is incorrect. I had a choice to select between USA, UK, Australia, New Zealand and Japan. I selected Japan for two reasons. One was, at that age, I was very fond of martial arts, karate, kung fu and that kind of thing. So I thought by going to Japan, I can pursue my interest in martial arts. Secondly, I thought by going to USA, UK, New Zealand or Australia, of course I would have the occasion to brush up my English. But I thought by going to Japan, I would have the occasion to pick up another language. For these two reasons, I selected Japan as my first choice. I was there for 1 year. And it was the structure of the scholarship that they took me to visit all the big conglomerates in Japan. You name it, Honda, Toyota, Mitsubishi, Mazda, then Canon Corporation, Matsushita Denki, which is known as National Panasonic in this part of the world. So my present business idea was conceived in my mind in one of my visits to Toyota. Toyota, of course, they have many manufacturing plants in Japan. The plant that I visited was in Aichi Prefecture. They have 42 prefectures like our districts. The one that was in Aichi Prefecture in the Toyota city, one of the oldest factories that they have. And at that time, the production lines ran into a few kilometers. So the person who was explaining the process to me was taking me in a battery operated silent car, the kind of car that you get in the airports. I was seated in the side bucket and this guy was explaining the process. And when I entered, although the production line was such a long production line, I hardly saw many people. Of course, there were people standing here and there. But for a factory of that magnitude, back in Sri Lanka, by that time I would have seen 3,000 to 4,000 people. So out of inquisitiveness, I wanted to know from that person, was it a holiday at Toyota? He said, no, it's not a holiday. We have automated most of our systems. And having said that, we proceeded further. I could see through a glass say the half of the size of this room, I could see about 400 people cramped in doing something swiftly. And I asked, what are they doing? And his simple answer was, they are doing a critical component to luxury vehicles, a safety device for luxury vehicles. Although I was just 16 at that time, my immediate question was, obvious question was, while ago you told me that everything is been automated. So why aren't you automating this process? Then he told me, this is a process that we cannot automate. You need human fingers to do this. Then my next question was, what is their takeaway salary? And when I converted it into Sri Lankan rupees, it came to about 150,000, 200,000 rupees. So knowing the abundance of labor back in my own country, although I was just 16, I did not have to do any feasibility study to understand that if it is a labor intensive product, doing it back here in Sri Lanka would definitely be feasible. So I in fact told him, if this is a labor intensive product, why not get this done in a country where labor is abundant? Then what he told me was, the answer, a vehicle comes into being by about 17,000 components coming together if it is a standard vehicle. If it is a luxury vehicle, twice as that. That is about 34,000 components come together and make a vehicle. He said, we do outsource to other countries and other companies certain components of these vehicles. But there is a list called the critical component list. And any component that comes under the critical component list, we shall never ever impart to any other country. We will only impart it to licensed suppliers within the country who are supplying the component to us. He said the function of these components are so bonded with the brand name so that they do not want to take a risk. So that is being done under their license and special supervision. And he said, therefore, that is why we are doing a certain, amount of production internally as well to resolve lead time problems. Now a business idea was conceived. I conceived that it was definitely feasible, but then a totally negative answer was received. But then once again I persisted. At the end of the tour, I requested for a few samples as to what they were doing in that room. I do not think that Toyota would oblige anyone with samples, but there were two special reasons. The structure of the scholarship was such, I was an invitee by the Japanese government. Secondly, I was a school student on a study tour. Maybe for these two reasons, this gentleman was kind enough to oblige me with 3 samples put on in a small, bag. And with these 3 samples, once completing my 1 year in Japan, now I come back to Sri Lanka. I come back to Sri Lanka and I sit my advanced level through St. Anthony's College, Kandy. The subjects that I offered were Sinhala, political science, economics and logic. During my time, when you sit your exams in August, you get your results somewhere after about 6 months, that is January or February next year. So being young and not wanting to be a vagabond, once again I go back to Japan after sitting my advanced level. But this time not on a scholarship, on my own. Because during my 1 year stay in Japan, at the latter part, I took part in a Japanese speech contest for the foreigners living in Japan, organized by NHK Radio. NHK Radio means their national television, although they have not dropped the word radio as yet. So that was organized by NHK Radio, National Television of Japan, a speech contest for the foreigners living in Japan. And there were 42 countries that took part, and I managed to secure the first place in that speech contest. When I achieved that feat, I was offered employment by many Japanese companies. So I revived one of them with NHK Radio. They also offered me employment, and I went there and worked as a Japanese English vice versa translator during daytime. And in the evening, I was a lobby artist in a 5-star hotel called Hotel New Otani, that's also in Tokyo. I was playing I was contracted to play Simon and Garfunkel on the guitar. And I think the second assignment, being a lobby artist, is a very easy thing, because a bar stool is kept there, you have to sit there and strum your guitar and sing. and no one is bothered to listen to you. They will just give you a glimpse as they pass by. So those were the two engagements while in Japan. And one day I received a call from my father, and he told me, "Pute, usas pela pratipala nikut vela, puta vibagi fail vela." Right. I had come down in single. I'm ashamed to say this, but during my time, it's not a laughing matter. If you fail your advanced level in my time, we did not have all the other options that is available to the youth today. So either if you fail your, crash your advanced level, your future looks so bleak. You have to settle for much, much less in life. That will be a life deciding factor, the advanced level result. So it was not easy, because we did not have, as I said, the options that the young crowd is having today. There was no SITEM at that time, right? So I came back to Sri Lanka with a heavy heart. But now I could offer advanced level for a second time through my school. But before applying for the second time, I gave it a deep thought. I deliberated deeply. I was wondering now, although I had a failure for Sinhala, other three subjects I have passed. I was wondering, although I had a failure for Sinhala, it's not that I did not study. That was my best shot. So I thought, even if I study hard and push harder during the next few months, this F might convert into a S or a maximum C. And that is not going to do any good to the overall result. So I was wondering whether I could change the subject, whether I could do any other subject instead of Sinhala, like Japanese as a subject. The answer was yes. I could offer at that time for advanced level Japanese as a subject. And my school directed me to the Japanese embassy even today, which is at Gregory's Road, and they helped me with the past papers that they have presented previously. When I went through the past papers, I was surprised to see, but back in Japan, remember, after completing my 1 year, I sat the university entrance exam in Japanese with the Japanese students. When I went through the Japanese paper that they present here for advanced level at that time, that was the grade 1 paper back in Japan. So I had no difficulty whatsoever deciding, all right, Sinhala is going to go out, I am going to do Japanese. And the other three subjects, economics, political science and logic, remain the same. And I remember on the day of the exam, where I sat in Kandy, on that particular day where we had the Japanese subject, it was only myself and two lady supervisors. Of course, elsewhere in the country there might have been other candidates, but in that particular examination it was only myself and two lady supervisors. And the 3-hour paper I managed to finish within 40 minutes, because it was so elementary. And I couldn't be bothered to be seated for 3 hours. So I took my answer script and handed it over to one of the lady supervisors. And I still can recollect what she told me. She told me, "Oka thamai lame bari wada karanne pa kiyanne." Right? She thought that I am retiring prematurely because I did not understand a thing. But when the results were out, I had an A for Japanese and I had 261 marks, which was sufficient at that time to enter one of the national universities. So I received a letter from the UGC saying that I have secured a place in one of the universities. But although I received a letter from the UGC, all the universities in the country at that time that is 88-89 period, were closed. Even the Open University was not open. So out of desperation, I went to get an application to sit the law entrance exam. So when I went to the counter, they wanted to know what are the subjects that you have offered for advanced level. The moment I said that I have done Japanese, the person at the counter told me, "Oya natum sangeetha wage dewal karala illa neetha karanna bෑ." Then I said, "Japanese is not natum, not sangeetha." And the other three subjects like logic, economics and political science has some nexus to law. So why not permit me? He said, "I am not the deciding authority, you will have to write to the Council of Legal Education," which I did. And the Council of Legal Education, at the 11th hour, they sent me a letter permitting me to sit the law entrance exam. And when the results were out, I was placed 6th in the island, and I managed to secure a place at Sri Lanka Law College, and that is how, by an accident, I became an attorney at law. It was never in my original agenda. Now, coming back to the samples that I brought from Japan, I am from Gampaha, my residence is Gampaha, my hometown, and I am from a village called Orutota, and it was there at my home in Urdu. One day after my lectures at law college, after coming home, I dismantled one of the samples. I had 3 samples. I dismantled one of the samples and I wrote on a piece of paper as to what it is made of. It had wires, it had connectors, it had terminals, right? It has some soldering done on it, it had a PCB and all that. And every component had a small serial number which I could, for example, the connector was Yazaki and it had a small serial number where I could see through a magnifying glass. So I wrote the material as I understood it, the connector and the serial number on a paper. And then I had friends working for Air Lanka at that time, Sri Lankan Air today, and I got this material procured from Singapore. And what I did was I bought a small booth and small equipment that I needed to re-engineer this. Although I did not have a spec, I did not have a drawing, right? But what I could see visually, I was confident that I could match. So I observed it very carefully and tried to match what was before my eyes. Because 2 samples I did not dismantle with the material that I procured from Singapore. Then I dispatched these 10 samples to the person who took me around Toyota. Of course, there was no reply. Then I kept on sending samples to the same person, maybe at least 7-8 times within a span of 12 months. I was getting material from Singapore and then doing samples and sending it. After about a year, I was inquisitive to know as to what was happening. And I contacted this person who took me around Toyota because I had his business card. When I contacted him, he said, I told you on the first day, don't ever try this. We will never ever give this. This is a life and death deciding component. We will never ever impart to any other country. So when you hear this kind of thing, if I say that I got further encouraged, that is not correct. That is not true. As a human being, you get discouraged. But for some reason, which I do not have a logical explanation, after a few months of that answer, I once again started sending samples to the same person. And once again, this continued for about 1.5 years without any success. Then again, I contacted him. By that time, he had reached the middle management at Toyota. But still, he was generous enough to answer. The moment he recognized it was I, he told me, you are the craziest guy I have ever come across in my life. And he said, I told you. Then I said, can I kindly know as to at least what is happening to my samples? Then he said, if you really want to know, let me tell you. When we see the package and when we see the sender's address as yours, we don't even bother to open the pack. We throw it to the dustbin. So you can't receive a negative answer than that. But at the same breath, he told me, you do not know perhaps how big Toyota is. He said the turnover of Toyota at that particular year was equal to the GDP of 60 countries put together. So he said, why should a company of the magnitude of Toyota talk business to a virtual non-entity like you from a hardly heard country? He said the component that you are referring to is supplied to us by licensed suppliers. If at all, you should be talking to them and not Toyota direct. So I kept my cool, and at the end of the conversation I requested, now a while ago you told me that there are licensed suppliers who are supplying this component to Toyota. Can I kindly have some of their contacts? And that was a very vital point. He was kind enough. By that time I had purchased a small fax machine. He faxed me 10 companies that were doing this component under license of Toyota. I wasted no time, procured material from Singapore, made 10 samples each, 100 in total, and dispatched to all 10 companies. Once again, no reply. During my final year at law college, when I returned home, one day there was a long fax. I call it a long fax because it was a fax roll at that time, and the red line indicated that it has consumed almost the entirety of my fax roll. When I cut it into pages, it was a 32-page document. Finally, one of the companies had replied. It said, we acknowledge receiving the 10 samples that you send us, out of which 2 can be accepted, 8 are defects, following is a defect analysis report. It was a comprehensive defect analysis report about the solder height, solder temperature, lab reports, terminal crimping force, everything was given there. So I went through that, trying to avoid the mistakes that I have done, wasted no time, made 10 samples for the company that replied and dispatched. This time the answer was swift. They said that there was a fax which said, we acknowledge receiving the 10 samples, out of which 8 can be accepted, 2 are defects, following is a defect analysis report. I was very happy that someone has at least taken a look at the samples. So then there was a lull period for about 3 months, and now they contacted me, the Japanese company that replied on Ito Spring. And they said, if we send material from Japan, can you assemble 100 components? I jumped at it. I said, of course. Then they continued this 100 bi-weekly for a while. And then it became 1,000. And then it became 10,000. So now this was in the ascending. 100, 1,000, 10,000. When it was 10,000, the material came in a few A4 size carton boxes. Then it went up to 50,000. When it was 50,000, material was coming in palletized cargo. My mother, I was doing it at home domestically. So my mother is a trim and proper housekeeper. She was asking me, right? Because there were material everywhere and so on. So now it was in the ascending. They say that entrepreneurs are risk takers, but I'm quite the contrary. I always try to pass the risk to someone else. Because by that time I had studied industrial law at law college, and I knew the repercussions, because just because you have an order from Japan, you recruit some people and you start your production line, and tomorrow you lose your order from Japan and you have to retrench these people. The law of the country is such, although you are a limited liability company, the law of the country is such, they can even sell your private, ancestral properties that you inherited before starting your business and compensate these people. So I did not want to take a risk with my ancestral inheritance. So therefore I went with this product, I went to companies that had a flair for electronics and wanted to know whether I could get this done in one of their factories. So every factory that I visited wanted to know as to how much I would pay them. The final company that I visited was one SJ Electromag, which was located at Homagama, the Khetak, Homagama. The owner's name is one Mr. Siri Samarakodi. So out of my experience visiting other companies, when I met him, I showed him the product and said, how much will I have to pay you to get this product done in one of your production lines? Then he's a thorough gentleman. He told me, this is a product that you are still at the trial and error stage. You have not succeeded as yet. So if you succeed, we can discuss the profit sharing modalities. I have got certain orders from USA cancelled, and therefore there is some idling labor in my factory. You can get this done in one of my production lines. I got this done at SG Electromag initially. During that time, in the latter part of the 90s, they have won the extra large category Best Exporter Award, Presidential Award 3 years consecutive. They have won the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award. So they had this quality mindset, that workforce had a quality mindset. They were working with companies like Ferronix of USA. So I had no problem in achieving 1 ppm quality. Of course, I had to train them through that company. So this, as much as I predicted, within the span of 2 years, this 50,000 components became 300,000 sensors for a month, which was bringing in millions of money to SJ Electromag. And Mr. Samarakodi was a generous man. He was paying me 10% of the invoice value, which once again came to a few millions. So by that time, I had taken oaths as an attorney at law. I had started my practice. I was practicing in Gampa High Courts and the Commercial High Courts of Colombo. And then I had completed my degree. I specialized in English. And then I was getting millions of money every month. So I had a line of sustenance. That is called, you are getting into a comfort zone. I was very comfortable. Because when you are young, you have material dreams, like you want to have a super luxury vehicle, you want to have a swimming pool in your residence. All these things I managed to achieve when I was very young. So there's a danger in entering this zone. Most of the people who had entered their comfort zones at a comparatively young age do not progress beyond that, because your need to achieve is no more in you. So it is always better in life to feel a little uncomfortable. Now everything looked rosy. Now when you do business with the Japanese, if you have any idea of doing any business with the Japanese, your physical presence in their country is very important. Your Europeans, Americans, you can keep that relationship, calling them, all right, Skype meetings and so on. But with the Japanese, you can't do that. You have to go there. You have to learn to play golf. You have to learn to do what they like. Especially golf is very important. High-ups in companies, they will definitely, first thing they will ask, when can we play a round of golf? You have to learn. So now I started going to Japan at least 6 times a year. And the owner of that company was one Mr. Ito. And he used to come to Sri Lanka at least twice. Now whenever I went to Japan, I saw all these 300,000 components that I sent to Japan is being re-inspected before it is being sent to the end users. For that purpose, there were about 200 people employed. So whenever I went there, I suggested to Mr. Ito, why not come and invest in Sri Lanka and start this inspection facility? I said, by the salaries that you pay 200 Japanese people, you can run a factory in Sri Lanka for years. So why not come and invest? Because now there was a huge risk in my business. Because the business model was, the Japanese guys, they send me the material in container cargo, I do the labor value addition, reship it to Japan. Simple, straightforward operation. So if they wanted to stop business with me, just one step that they had to retrieve. Stop sending material in the next shipment. So in that sense, there was a huge risk. So I was trying to entice the Japanese party to make an investment in Sri Lanka so that they cannot retrieve so easily. And there was another problem. Now I had this cognitive dissonance where my heart and mind couldn't agree. I was wondering, are we Sri Lankans only good at providing labor? Because I didn't perceive myself as doing something great. Because I bring material, I do the value addition and send it. It's not a big deal. And labor is one of the, people sell labor when they are poor of the poor. Aren't we good at designing? Can't we get into hardcore manufacturing? This was bothering me. Of course we could, but the initial capital that was required to start the hardcore manufacturing in Sri Lanka was around $8 million US, which was about 1 billion rupees at that time, which I did not have. Had I had $8 million US at that time, I wouldn't have started any business at all. I would have put it in the bank, the interest that they pay, right? So whenever I went to Japan, I was trying to entice them to come and invest in Sri Lanka. But they said, no, we are happy with the present business model, why should we come and invest? And as I said, now I go to Japan at least 6 times, and Mr. Ito comes to Sri Lanka at least twice. So when Mr. Ito arrives in Sri Lanka, his usual schedule is stay here for 1 week. And then he goes to SJ Electromag with me, take a look at the process, and then on the final day that he takes the Sri Lankan Air flight to Narita. Right, Sri Lankan Air flight to Narita. And on a day, the final day is a relaxed day. He doesn't go to SJ Electromag, he just usually he stayed at Galadari, which was a better hotel at that time. And he used to have a Japanese meal at the Ginza Hosen at Hilton, which is no more there. Then buy some Sri Lankan tea and take the 11 o'clock in the night, 11 o'clock flight to Sri Lankan Air flight to Narita. And on a day that he was here in Sri Lanka for 1 week, and on a day that he was leave, Katunayaka airport was attacked by the terrorists. And when this happened, I was getting nervous because I knew this is going to have a very bad impact on my business. And Mrs. Ito was staying at, as I said, at Galadari. I had my contacts at Galadari, so I contacted them and I gave the room number of Mr. Ito and told them to disconnect this gentleman's television of this gentleman's room. Because if you may remember, all the channels, Rupayani, Swadhina, Sirasa, they were giving a live coverage of the operations that were going on at the Katunayaka airport. So I did not want Mr. Ito to go through these visuals because I knew this is going to have a negative impact on my business. I was lucky on that day there was no curfew in Colombo, so that we could get about our normal business. But now I was getting nervous because all the flights were getting cancelled and rescheduled. But once again I was lucky. There was a VVIP, not Mr. Ito, who had to report to their national diet, that is their parliament, the next day, and therefore under special security, the Sri Lankan flight to Narita was on schedule. But not wanting to take a risk, I had a friend, one Kishan Nihampat from the Air Force, so I contacted him. I said, I'm coming with one of my VVIPs in my life, ensure that he does not feel the impact of what is going on there, because I learned even at that time there were still 2 terrorists on the ceiling and the operations were on. So I contacted him and he said, it's a difficult task, you bring him. So when I approached the gate, there was so many security personnel from all forces, and he had assigned a few people to receive me. Then these people asked me, security personnel, are you Mr. Rohan Palla? I said yes. And they opened the boot of the vehicle and they took the bags out, which was not usual. And Mr. Ito was a little panicked. He looked at me and said, what's going on? I said, don't worry, this is how my countrymen treat me now. Right? And the Air Force did such a great job until he left the airport, until he left Sri Lanka. He did not realize that he was passing through an airport that was under terrorist attack. But of course, when he reached Japan through the media, he got to know what has happened. But now he was in his safe zone. Because had he seen the debris, and had he seen any crossfire or people with arms running here and there, he would have definitely resolved never to return to this country. Because the perception of security is very high in Japan. They don't even see a constable with a baton in Japan, streets in Japan. So it would have had a negative impact. But now, of course, he was in his secure zone. It was just news to him. He got to know through the media. So after a few months, he contacted me, but a sad thing happened. He said, there is a special meeting, you'll have to come and attend. Although he did not pronounce the agenda, I knew what was in the air. I knew what was going to happen. I traveled to Japan with a very heavy heart. I knew what they were going to say. The Japanese, the gentlemen they are, they will not stop business with you by not answering the phone, not answering your email. They will not do it that way. They will summon you, have a meeting, have a dialogue. We have been continuing this business with you for such a long time, but if we elect under these circumstances, new circumstances, to stop business with you, what are the liabilities that may incur upon you? How can we be of help to resolve them? And they will help you, they will not leave you in a minor state. So I knew this was the agenda, although they did not tell me what the agenda was. And as I told you, since I became a frequent visitor to Japan, by that time I had purchased a house in Nagoya. That is where I put up myself even now. I was watching television. And when I was watching television, I saw these visuals around 9 o'clock in Japan. The Al-Qaeda attack on the World Trade Center. Right. I'm not happy at all. You might wonder it happened in the morning. Yeah, of course, New York it was morning because the time difference, it was 9 o'clock night in Japan. So, I'm not happy at all for the lives lost in this whole episode. But after a few minutes, I realized that my problem has been resolved. Next day, I went to the meeting. The Japanese usually they start their meetings right on the dot, and they move the agenda very fast. But they did not start this meeting because of that incident, the Al-Qaeda attack on the World Trade Center. The agenda has become obsolete. The point that they wanted to raise was that Sri Lanka was no more a safe place to do business. Right. And then they did not start the meeting. Everyone had newspapers, Asahi, Yomiuri, all Japanese newspapers. Every cover page was having photographs of the aircraft hitting the buildings collapsing and so on. And Mr. Ito looked at me and said in a lighter vein, there is no reason why we should proceed with this meeting. Let's hear from our friend from Sri Lanka if he has anything to say. And in that boardroom, there was a huge world map in the background. And I walked up to that map and I said 24 hours ago, my country was marked red in this world map. and a travel advisory gone to all the countries saying it is a dangerous territory, don't travel to this country. Later on I learned that it so happens when a government is unable to protect even their ports and airports. So Sri Lanka was the only country that was marked red during that time. So I said my small country was marked red 24 hours ago. But after this incident, please tell me the country that I should not mark red in this world map. And my message was understood. My order was not cancelled. I came to Sri Lanka with a light heart. After a few months, I received a call from Mr. Ito, and he told me, after so much persuasion, I have decided to come and invest in Sri Lanka. I couldn't have been happier. And when the news broke that a Japanese investment of $8 million is going to come to Sri Lanka, all the bankers were after me. They said, tell him to bring only half. We will fund balance of the project, we will fund 50%. When I communicated it to Mr. Ito, he said, your country is interested in me coming to your country because of the money that I bring in. So why should I bring half? I'll bring the full amount. So to date, we don't have any borrowings from a local bank or international bank. So he came with the entire $8 million and invested in Sri Lanka. And as I said, I'm from Gampaha. Both Katnayaka zone and the Biyagama free trade zone are equally close. But when I traveled to Biyagama zone, I realized it was less congestion. So therefore, I looked for a land there. And that is how the company Lanka Harness, that is the background story, of which I am the chairman today, as I said, which had a turnover of $80 million last year, came into being. So this is the story. And what I want to finally inculcate in your mind is that if you look at my life, it was a roller coaster one. Right? It was not a straight line success. Right? So the motivation when you want to achieve something should come from within you. It should come from within you. No amount of external pressure is going to bring about the best in you. It is the internal pressure that you exert on yourself that is going to bring the best in you. The best metaphor is an egg. If you pressurize an egg from the outside and it breaks, life ends. But when an egg is pressurized from the inside and it breaks, life begins. So in my life, it was not, as I said, not a straight line success. I had to do my advanced level twice. Then I kept on sending these samples again and again and again. So when I went to law college, they said, no, you can't do law entrance exam. But I persevered and I managed to end up as an attorney at law. And also I forgot to tell you, when I entered Kelaniya, I wanted to major in English. Once again, there was an obstacle. They told me, no, you can't major in English because you have not done English as a subject for your advanced level. So one fine day I was lucky here. I met one Professor DCRA Gunathilaka, who was the head of the department of the English faculty in the canteen at Kelaniya University. And he was telling me casually, every year that he was expecting around 25 students to his faculty, his department, English department. He said, but I am getting only about 12. So I said, in that case, why not permit a few students who are very keen in specializing in English? Then he said, once again, I cannot decide. I have to take this matter with the university senate. He said, give it to me in writing. So I gave it to him in writing, and he took up the matter with the university senate, and they came up with a condition that it is a must that I sit for English as a subject for my GAQ, and I had to get something over a B+. And that way I managed to clear my path to get to the destination that I desired. That is to major in English. And then the samples, I kept on sending and sending and sending. Because as I said, 25 years ago, I'm from a village called Urutura, as I said. Had I told my villagers, I'm going to start a business with Toyota, they would have taken me to Mullaria and put me there, right? So, but now today, both Toyota, Honda, and all these big companies are coming to Sri Lanka almost every other year, and they are doing process audits of my company. So, what was impossible? If you reflect and look at the answers that I received, most of the people would have given up. But here I persisted. So the final message, of course, we can open for a Q&A. Final message is, there is no straight line to success. There will always be ups and downs. And life is made of all this. And remember, when I went to Japan, when they wanted me to come to Japan after the airport attack, after a few months, of course, you know, everything was crumbling down, because that would have gone in either way, right? So sometimes remember, whatever you build in your life so passionately, so tirelessly, you might lose it overnight. But that is when the real you comes out. That is the real test. If you can still stand firm, right? If you have the guts to come back, that is when you really recognize yourself. So as I said, success is always, there will be ups and downs. And if there are ups and downs, it's a very good sign that you are progressing in life. If there are no ups and downs in your life, be careful. You might be on a collision path, you might hit against something. The best metaphor is an ECG. Ups and downs indicates that you are very much alive. A straight line indicates that you are no more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rohan Pallewatha, the Executive Chairman of Lanka Harness Co. Limited, and for enlightening and entertaining presentation of entrepreneurship and innovation management. So we appreciate having this mysterious area clarified, because most of the time we are going through the theories, but this time we go through the life experience, the real life experience. That is the most powerful and inspirational part of being an entrepreneur. And so you are sharing thoughts and experience always inspire us, and we always wanted to engage with entrepreneurial activities and initiatives as engineers in future. So that is the main reason that we are having this entrepreneurship forum by ISL. So it's time to have a Q&A session. So I cordially invite you to the seating arrangement here, and all of you can have some, if you have any questions, and you can get clarified more. Thank you. Yes.
And just clarification, how do you know that your answers are within that accuracy range that you were before you send it? How do you know that you have achieved that?
Of course,
very precise and accuracy.
sure. Of course, now of course we test it electronically, but at that time I did not have that facility to test it electronically. Only the visual, correction, and I was lucky that it didn't fall, and of course, as I told you, the reports came. They were very comprehensive reports. So I, studied in detail and tried to avoid all what they have mentioned. And of course, now it's not the case now that quality is guaranteed in the process and the inspections, and then we have electronically testing system.
I have style. Can I ask the audience, please, how many of you have heard of Lanka Harness Co? If you don't mind, the show of hands. Good. I haven't heard of this company before, because this is one of probably the very few manufacturing plants that was Sri Lankan bred, and is now feeding one of the most I would say challenging and critical industries in the world. So it's a funny question. I don't know whether you can answer this, but why isn't why don't we hear about things like this in our country? Because this is after listening to the whole story how you came up. These things I think our children should be taught in school, and even people like us should know these things. But until I came here, I didn't know. It's giving me goosebumps just listening to you.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is what's wrong? Why doesn't the rest of the country hear about this?
Yeah. I think a very good question. Now, in other countries, a story like mine, the government would have promoted, and they would have included that in the school, curriculum for students to study. Now, back in Japan, if you take their curricula at a very tender age, and remember, first 5 years, the Japanese students, or first 3 years, I can't remember, they don't have exams. They don't have exams, right? So that is the formative ages. What they do, they inculcate the values, right? They inculcate the value of hard labor, working hard. All that is embedded, they inflict in them, inculcate in them when they are very small. And they teach them to respect. And likewise, as you rightly said, now the other day there was a student from Bandaravela who had made a electric car. Of course, it might not be the best electric car in the world, but then with available resources from a student from Bandaravela. Then it was in the 8th page of that Lankadeep on that particular day, a small article about Bandaravela Shishek. And what was the headline? I can't remember. Sabbaragamu Palat Sabavi Senkole Usagane Duai or something. Right? So what are we encouraging? As you rightly said. What are we encouraging? So Minihak encouragement is Senkole Duan Alutem Wakar. So if we are to create an innovative culture in this country, it's not only myself, there are so many other success stories in this country which have not come out. And we got to bring these to the surface. Because these are our own stories. Nathang api hamadamat Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they are, of course, they are great leaders, but then we have our own people to celebrate, to cheer, to be proud of. Right? So, for example, Dr. Bandula Vijay, right? Heart stent catheter. He is the person. He is the person who's having the patent. Of course, he's in USA. Right? Dr. Bandula Vijay Sena, he's not an MBBS doctor. So I met him in USA. He told me, had I done my research in Sri Lanka, the medical council wouldn't have accepted because I'm not a doctor. Right? But in USA, they look at the relevance of the research findings, and they are encouraging applicable research. Right? So, as you rightly said, I think we have to take that point very seriously. Now, as you know, this is not a secret. During the past Facebook and all that, I have declared candidacy to contest the 2020 presidency as well. But why did I do that? Because I'm very comfortable with what I have now. But if all of us elect to be very comfortable within our comfort zones, this country will go on unabated with all this. I was surprised to see when the Auditor General was speaking. It's in the public media. I was interested in how, to get to know as to what is the national debt. So I wrote to the central bank under the Right to Information Act, and I'm yet to get a reply. And what they told me was, you can't blame these central bank guys. They said for the past 10 years, Sri Lanka has not kept a national account. Would you believe that? Every organization that you belong to have an account. Can you believe that a country has not had an account, national account, for the past 10 years? They said, we are investigating and we are developing it now. I asked, what is the cumulative figure of the money that has been borrowed? Right? He said the cumulative figure in Sri Lankan rupees is 10.8 trillion Sri Lankan rupees. Then I asked, what is the utilization rate? He said, with all the evidence that we had, with Mattala Airport, Hambantota Port, then the highways and everything, the utilization is to date just 1.1 trillion. This is alarming. What happened to the balance 9 trillion? Of course, now when I was talking to a forum, there was one person from the Ministry of Finance. He said, Mr. Mangal Samaru had brought in some foreign auditors, and that they are doing a forensic audit to find out as to what happened to this 9 trillion. So this is the state of affairs in the country. So are we professionals just to sit back and become onlookers, or are we to challenge this? I know people call me various things. This guy is mad, and all these negative comments are there. But then, unless we professionals make a meaningful intervention, this will go unabated. Right. So we got to start from somewhere, and that is why I'm here.
I have a small question. Other than the sense of the environment, you have any idea to go in the part of the manufacturing? And
Yes.
the other thing is, typically all the airbag sensor, you have so idea to the manufacturer the sensor part, which is facilitating for something, like hard to get manufactured in the Sri Lanka.
Yeah. Actually, we have, after the airbag sensor, we have embarked on other products as well. Although it took me 46 visits to Japan to convince them that this is possible to be done in Sri Lanka. It was not, as I said, and it took me about 10 to 15 years to convince them. But then once you establish your credentials with one part, one component, the second component is not difficult. Because now I am doing the seat belt sensor switch, because you have the light. So if you don't wear the seat belt, there's an indicator, and there's an open close switch. We are doing that switch, and also we are doing what is called the sun visor arm for Honda. Right, so I have embarked on new products as well. Yes.
Those are the Sri Lankan raw material, like you were saying, resources in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
You have any idea?
Of course, we have been trying time and again, but when it comes to international business, the raw material supply, it is not what you see on the surface. It is like a mafia, right? So although we may have the raw material and we may have the capability of producing it here in Sri Lanka, because at the end of the day you have to get the approval of the automobile association of those particular countries. They will come out with some regulation and say, no, you can't do it in your country. So we have to have a mechanism to overcome those, right? So for example, one of the connectors that I'm using from Sumitomo, when I visited one of the Sri Lankan companies in Katunayaka zone, Managemen, it's actually original German company. They were doing the Sumitomo connector, the identical connector that I was using for my production at the Katunayaka factory. So I wrote to Sumitomo Japan and said, I can get this buy this from Katunayaka. So can I? Because when I wanted to know from Managemen, they said you have to get permission from Sumitomo. They also can't sell. So when I wrote to them, they said no. Answer was no, because their margins here and there would get disturbed. Their line of business. So we might talk about best logistics and all that, but then supply chain, the best way is to get it from the source, but it is not happening that way. So we all have material, but then it's a very tricky situation. Yeah.
There are many cars imported from Japan at frequently.
Yeah.
So, let's say the car is around 10 years old.
Yeah.
And if someone is using the car, so how can we make sure that the sensors and the airbag is working correctly?
Right. In the dashboard, there's a small icon with the airbag, a man seated.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So if that is on, which means your system is not working. Because when you switch එක දැම්ම හැටියම ඒක on වෙන්න ඕනේ, online off වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒක off වෙන්න on වෙලාම තියෙනවා නම් ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයගේ airbag system එක වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ කියන එක.
That sensor is working perfect, but in case of accident, the airbag does not pop up. Then what will be the cost? I mean, how can you just see?
මට බය හිතෙන කතා කියන්න එපා. මොකද accident එකක් කියලා airbag එක ආවේ නැත්තම් ඒක මගේ component එකක් නම් මගේ business එක හෙට ඉවරයි. මගේ business එක හෙට ඉවරයි. ඒක නිසා
That's why you said that resistance
much
Yeah, definitely.
higher.
Yeah. Well, either you maintain that quality or you walk out of your business. And එක තමයි business එකේ risk එක. දැන් එහෙම එකක් වුණා එක ලොකු company එක major player කෙනෙකුට. Takata Corporation කියන they were the one of the second largest player. Right? Takata Corporation එකේ airbag එකක් හින්දා USA වල there were 9 deaths because of a defective airbag. මොකද අර side airbag එක එළියට එනකොට ඒකේ තියෙන inflator කියලා එකක්. inflator එකේ පොඩි යකඩ කෑල්ලක් මෙහෙම බටයක් වගේ එකක්. ඒ inflator එක වැදිලා 9 දෙනෙක් මැරලා තිබුණා. අවුරුද්දක් තිස්සේ. එතකොට මේක ඇමරිකන් කෝට්ස් වලින් තීරණය කරා මේ airbag හදන කම්පැනි එකේ වැරද්දින්ද තමයි මේක උනේ කියලා. එතකොට මේ කම්පැනිට ආව claims 24 billion US dollars. So how can a company sustain when there is a claim of that amount? but අනිත් පැත්තෙන් ඒ Takata Corporation වගේ එකක් දවුරුදු ගාණක් තිස්සේ තියෙන කම්පැනි එකක්. they are specializing steering wheels and airbags and so on. ඒ වගේ එකක් එළියට ගියොත් ඒක රිප්ලේස් කරන්න කම්පැනි එකක් හදන්න තව අවුරුදු ගාණක් යනවා. ඒකින්ද ඒක you can't ඒක මැරෙන්න දෙන්න බෑ. Is what the automobile makers did, they pooled money and tried to bail them out. Still they are having problems. හැබැයි මමතර මේ බොරදියේ මාළු බානවා වගේ ඒකෙන් orders ගොඩක් මට ආවා. ඊළඟ දැන් මේ දවස්වල ෆැක්ටරිස් එකක් පොලිසියෙන් හදනවා. ඒ කැපැසිටි කැන්ඩල් කරන්න. right? ඒක නිසා ඒ වගේම ඒක අනිත් පැත්තට වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. එයා බෑග් එකක් එළියට ආවේ නැත්නම් ඇක්සිඩන්ට් එකකදී ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ එනවා. Yeah.
Master, as a role driver is not power to the totally the airbag.
Sorry, customer?
In the role driver is not power to protocol the airbag working on in the road in Sri Lanka home.
In Sri Lanka, it's not made compulsory as yet. Yes, as yet. But India is going to bring that legislation, and we are working close with that as well. That is how you develop your business. Yeah. When that becomes legislation, it's a must that every vehicle has to have an airbag. In Japan, it's legislation. ඒ වගේම මම පටන් ගත්තේ ජපානට යවන්න පමණයි. නමුත් මේ වෙනකොට ජපානයේ නම් දැනට Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Mazda ඔක්කොම පාවිච්චි කරනවා. යුරෝපයේ Volvo, Saab, BMW, Aston Martin ඒ ටික ඔක්කොම පාවිච්චි කරනවා. එතකොට ඇමරිකාවේ General Motors, Ford, Chrysler. right? එතකොට දැන් මම යවන්නේ ජපාන විතරක් නෙමෙයි. ජර්මනියට යවනවා, රුමේනියාවට යවනවා. මේ පැත්තෙන් ඉන්දුනීසියා වලට යවනවා, මැලේසියා වලට යවනවා, ඉන්දියාව වලට යවනවා, චයිනා වලට යවනවා, ජර්මනි මම කිව්වා, රෂ්‍යාව වලට යවනවා, බ්‍රසීල් වලට යවනවා. ඉතින් තව රටවල් මේක එක්ස්පෑන්ඩ් කරලා තියෙනවා දැන් අනිත් රටවල් වලට. So we Sri Lankans, we can do it. It's possible. It's the final message because yeah.
Okay, now, thank you very much. I just want to know whether it's a kind of critical compound.
Yeah.
How do you maintain the skin of the structure?
Great.
So that's the kind of a major issue in certain factories.
Sure.
Now, this is not a garment or
Yeah.
this is not kind of a thing that, but this is critical compound.
Sure. Sure. Thank you for the question. Well, what do I do? As I said, as you question me, what do I do to maintain 1 ppm quality? What do I do different from what others do? There are a few things. One thing is that we have what is called a trust culture. We trust each other. I will explain. Now, in my factory, of course, there are a few cameras for security purposes. When they put up the building, the architects wanted to know whether they could fix cameras for the production flow and have monitors around my table. I said no, because I believe the moment you fix a camera behind a human being, you are encroaching human dignity. And when you fix a camera, why do they work? Because they know someone is watching you, and that is not the right reason for a person to work. If a person is work, the motivation for a person to work is because he or she is being supervised? No, that is not the right reason to work. So all my employees, 100% of them, I send them to Japan for a training. All of them. But the uniqueness is not sending them to Japan. To date, over the past 15 years, every person has returned. So that is why I say trust culture works even in Sri Lanka. So when you have trust culture, you can eliminate all unnecessary processes. You can eliminate the entire supervisory grade. Of course, companies like Mass Holdings, Brandix, they're coming and studying my processes. They're doing work studies in my company. Because if they can get that layer out, they can be very competitive internationally. Because I believe whatever process you have, every individual at every point should be adding value to the product, adding value to the company, adding value to the organization. So it is one thing is trust culture. Because when they are taken to Japan, we take this because most of the people in my factory, මගේ ආයතනයේ වැඩ කර ගොඩක් ළමයි මම ගම්පහින්ද ඒ අවට ගම්පලාත්වල පූගොඩ ඒ මොකද මේ ඒ ළඟ තියෙන ගම්වල ළමයි තමයි ගොඩක් අය වැඩ කරන්නේ. ගොඩක් පවුල් ළමයි දරිද්‍රතාවය කියන්නේ එනකොට ගොඩක්ම දුප්පත් ළමයි. එතන මේ අයව දැන් ජපානයේ ගියාම ගෙනියනවා මේ Lexus range එක වගේ showrooms වලට ගෙනියනවා. We take them to showrooms like Lexus range. And we give them a test drive in one of the super luxury vehicles. ඒ test drive එක ආවට පස්සේ කියනවා ඔයාලා හේ හදන එක තමයි මේක හයි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. Then එකපාරට බලන්න මේ අපි හදපු එක මේක හයි වෙලා තියෙනවා. Then they take pride in what they do. Then they start working for the right reason. Because people should be, working because they like what they do and because they take pride in what they do. It is only then that you can achieve 1 ppm quality. එකක් ඒ mindset එක. අනිත් එක තමයි a process of acculturation. Acculturation කියලා කියන්නේ වෙන රටක සංස්කෘතිය තවත් රටකට ආදේශ කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියන එක. තමයි කම්පැනි එකනේ එහෙම කරපු ස්ටඩීස් ගොඩාක් තියෙනවා. අවසාන නිගමනය තමයි ස්ටඩීස් වල කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක. දැන් මොකද අපි ගොඩාක් කම්පැනිස් වල දකිනවා 5S, Kaizen ඒ වගේ concepts ගනනලා Japanese concepts ගනනලා Kanban system මෙහි implement කරනවා. හැබැයි ගොඩාක් කම්පැනිස් වල ඒක හරියන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ හරියන්නේ නැති හේතුව if you try to introduce the Japanese concepts in isolation without having their culture in place, it's not going to take place. ඒ ජපානයේ ගිහිල්ලා production line එකට ගිහිල්ලා what is 5S කියලා ඇහුවොත් සමහර අය දන්නේ නැහැ. But they are living it. ඒ කට්ටිය වැඩ කරන්නේ ඔක්කොම මේ 5S එකේ තියෙන විදිහ තමයි. අපේ 5S board එකේ තියෙනවා. හැබැයි process එකේ නැහැ. Right? That's the difference. So one thing I believe now, if you take a plant from Japan and try to plant it in Sri Lanka, if the soil condition is not right, it will not take root. Similarly, if first we have to create that mindset. The මගේ ළමයි ජපානයේ ගියාම ඒකට culture ලා එන්නේ. Another you have to have a culture catalyst who passes the alien culture to the indigenous culture. The මේකේ culture catalyst හැටියට වැඩ කරන්නේ මම inadvertently. Right? So මගේ තුලින් මේ culture එක seep down වෙනවා workers ලට. සහ ඒ කට්ටියට training එක ගිහලා එනකොට ජපානයේ ගිහලා එනකොට මේ කට්ටිය ඇවිදින වේගය හිටන් වෙනස් වෙලා ඉන්නේ. Right? එතකොට acculturation process එකක් එනවා. මේ දෙක හරිම වැදගත් වෙනවා. මේ 1 ppm quality එක maintain කරනවා. ඊට අමතරව තව technical දේවල් තියෙනවා. දැන් අපි supervisory grade එකක් නැති වුණාට අපිට steps 10ක් තියෙනවා කියලා. දෙවෙනි එකේ වගකීම තමයි තමන්ගේ step එක පටන් ගන්න කලින් පළවෙනි step එක හරියට කරලා තියෙනවද කියන එක assure කරන්න. මොකද පළවෙනි step එකේ මොකක් හරි defect එකක් තිබිලා අහුනොත් ඒකට වග කියන්න ඕනේ දෙවෙනි එක නා මිසක් පළවෙනි එක නෙමෙයි. මොකද තමන්ගේම defect එක තමන්ටම තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ ගොඩක් වෙලා. ඒක නිසා අපි කියලා තියෙන ඊළඟ step එකේ එක්කෙනා supervise කරන්න ඕනේ පළවෙනි එක තමන්ගේ step එක කරන්න කලින් පළවෙනි step එක හරියට වෙලා තියෙනවද කියලා. ඒක නිසා ඒක හරි straight forward process එකක්. ඒ විදිහට in process මේක check වෙනවා. ඊට අමතරව කොකටත් කියලා අපි intermediate inspection එකක් දාලා දෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ final inspection එකකුත් තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ electronical inspection එකකුත් තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ shipment එක යන්න ඕන්න මෙන්න කියලා හිටපු ගාම ගිහිලා random inspection එකකුත් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ ඔක්කොම පැනලා මේ වෙනකන් දෙයියන්ගේ පිටින් reject එකක් ඇවිල්ලා නැහැ. ඒ process වලින් තමයි 1 ppm quality maintain කරන්නේ. අනිත් එක තමයි මගේ ආයතනයේ ගන්නකොට most of them are first time employees. I still do the conduct the interviews myself. ඒක මම HR එකට දීලා මැනේජර් කෙනෙක් දාලා එහෙම කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. නමුත් interviews කරන්නේ මම. right වහන පොඩි IQ test එකකුත් තියෙනවා. ඒ ටික මමම කරනවා. මොකද හේතුව you can't take a risk there because if you get one person wrong person into the organization, you are going to have repercussions. right ඒකදී first time කට්ටියම හරියම ලේසි එකල්ච් කරගන්න. අපි හිතමු අවුරුදු ගාණක් වෙන කොතන හරි වැඩ කරලා ඒ කට්ටිය එන්නේ ඔව් ඒ අපි එහි කරේ එහෙම නෙමෙයි මෙහෙමනේ කියලා. So they come to change you. Right? So it's always better to get young blood, first time employees, then you can culture them and get the output. And also you have to be sincere as well, humane as well. Not that you can't look at your workers as machines, you know. A human touch can be this. You have to be receptive to their grievances, right? That is also there. Then they come to like you, they love you, and they are dedicated to the work. Yeah.
First of all, all of you being enrolled, let's help you coming from Cambridge and doing something big. I was listening to computer 1 month at Shangri-La.
Yeah.
And his story was basically dominating the share market, and he's basically dominating the country at the moment. Basically, yeah, running the show. Your story is different to computers in law. You are doing something outside the country and it is interest. And his story was basically now he's not into those people here, chairman and and he's running a office with the person, and he's looking at projects where he can invest on. And I saw you 2 years back at this place at Juni Inventors, I think was as a big. So we see so many inventors who are coming out and they go through, they are going through a process and they did not lose. So you don't, somebody is not supporting, even the investment commission is not supporting, and they are left out.
Yeah.
And have you thought of supporting these children, especially on these, what do you call their innovation and things?
Of course, we are already engaged in this. I'm working closely with the Borough University especially, and when these children come out with these kind of projects, when they develop the electric car called Nilmini, I funded the project. Then they had a robotics teams going to Japan. I funded that project, and most of the projects, I mean, not all the projects, most of the projects, what we look at is what is the relevance, what would Sri Lanka gain, and based on that we certainly support. Yeah.
Talking of Sri Lankan budget, carbon budget, basically they don't what you call invest on position of, you don't see that in India that's in.
Yeah.
And 2020 you want to get some of in the presidency election.
Yeah.
So any idea of what you call looking on this and you won't develop
Well, I think most of the answers to the question that you raised, I have a website called sdpsl.lk, sdpsl.lk. So my plan for the country is comprehensively laid down in that particular website, and education, higher education, everything, construction, all these fields are addressed in a comprehensive document. And even the cabinet ministries we have decided, we have clustered to 5, and there are 15 cabinet ministers. And how are we going to govern? Because we are very serious about it, right? As Mahatma Gandhi said, as I said at the beginning, when you embark on something new, right? People will, they'll ignore you, then they laugh at you, will ridicule you. So that phase I'm ready to go through, but for the sake of the country. So all this for innovation as to how to get the best, because now the amount of money that is spent on innovation is not enough. When you take South Asian countries, we are the least spending on innovation, R&D, right? But on education, we differ. Because on education, people say there should be at least 6% allocated for education. But it is not the amount that because we did our own research, it is not the allocation that matters. Because even the money that is being allocated now for universities, they only spend 30% of what is allocated because of the procedure that they have to go through, right? So we have to make universities autonomous, and UGC should be a monitoring body. So for everything, if they have to write to the UGC for every 200,000 rupees, so only 30%, mind you, only 30% out of the money allocated to the universities are being spent. So increasing 6% is not going to solve the problem, right? And even private education for that matter. Because now out of the 175,000 students who qualify, only 27 state can only accommodate 27,000 students. So it is not the fault of the students who cannot enter the universities. So if the state can't offer, why not in my private entities? Of course, there should be a mechanism to maintain the quality and the standards of the education. Not that every unknown university can come here and establish themselves, right? So all that is there in the documents. You can see sdpsl.lk. Yeah. And some people told me, Machan, don't publish everything that you have. Other people might copy. I said, this is not an egocentric individual journey. Copy karla hari kaman nahi, howre meka karna na, right? I'm relieved. But howre ke jattela innu puluwan. Me karadare oluwata daa ganna nathu. මේක බොහොම සංකීර්ණ ප්‍රශ්නයක්. මොකද හේතුව මම හිතන්නේ මිලියන් එකත් 1 බිලියන් 1.5 ප්‍රමාණයක් තරුණ පිරිස මම ඊයේ පෙරේදා නුවර යනකොට දැක්කා. උදේ පාන්දර මම ගියා යනකොට හැම හන්දියක් ගානෙම 3-wheeler park තියෙනවා. ඒ park වල තරුණ පිරිස නිකන් පත්‍රයක් බල කතා කර ඉන්නවා. මේ රටේ ලේබර් ෆෝස් එකේ හොඳම කොටස. එතකොට 1 මිලියන් 1.5 මිලියන් වගේ youth එක මේ වගේ රැකියාවකට යමු වුණා. මම හිතලා බලන්න 1 මිලියන් 3-wheelers එක දවසකට රුපියල් 500ක පෙට්‍රල් ගියොත් 500 මිලියන් එක දවසකට. That what a strain on the economy, right? ඒක නිසා දැනට BOI companies එක ගත්තොත් at any given time 300,000 500,000 vacancies තියෙනවා. දැන් මොකද හේතුව? දැන් මගේ දැන් හෙටානිත් හදන කට්ටියකට මට 1000ක් ඕන අලුතෙන්. එතකොට ඒ 1000ට මම 40,000 බේසික් කියන්නේ පටන් ගන්නවා 40,000 කියලා ඇඩ්වර්ටයිස්මන්ට් දැම්මොත් හරියම අමාරු වෙනිස් දොරගන්න. හැබැයි ප්‍රාදේශීය සභා ඉලෙක්ෂන් එක තියෙනවා කිව්වම ඒකේ පඩිය 18 මේ 15000යි. 56000 ප්‍රොමිනේෂන් දෙන්න ඉදිරියට වුණා. So these are the problems of the country. So we have to understand because මේක මේ කවුරුත් ඇවිල්ලා මැජික් එකක් කරලා හදන්න බෑ. Everyone අපි අපේ පාර්ට් එක අපි කරන්න ඕනේ. මේ කවුරුත් මේ රටවල් හදන්න ඉන්න බෑ. අපිටත් කරන්න කොටසක් තියෙනවා. ඒක නිසා දැන් මේ ඒක ත්‍රිලර් එක එළවලු මිනිහට කරන්න වැඩක් නැහැ. මේ රට එතෙන්ට තමයි මේ මිනිස්සු තල්ලු කරේ. එතකොට how are we going ඒක ඒ කට්ටිය face out කරලා කොහොමද ගන්න? ඒක හරිම අමාරු ටාස්ක් එකක්. මොකද මම try කරා. දැන් සමහර අය මම අහනවා කීයද පඩිය. එයාට කියන ත්‍රිලර් එකෙන් මම මාසෙට 30000ක් වෙනවා. මම කියන right මම 60000 දෙන්නම් ඔයාලට එන්න කියලා. එනවා. ෆැක්ටරි වල සතියයි ඉන්නේ. ඒ වන්ස යනවා. මොකද හේතුව එයා පුරුදුලා තියෙන එයා උදේට කැමති වෙලාවට නැගිටිනවා. ඇවිල්ලා ඊට පස්සේ බලනවා පත්තරයක් බලලා හයර් එකක් ගිහලා කොහොමද රුපියල් 1000ක් දවසට හොයාගන්න. ඊට පස්සේ හවස කැමති වෙලාවට ගෙදර යනවා. ඒ අතරතුර ඕන්න අඩියක් ගහලා අර කරන්න ඕන ඔක්කොම නිෆේරියස් ඇක්ටිවිටිස් එකක් කරනවා. එතකොට මේ කල්චර් එකට පුරුදු වෙන මිනිහා අනිත් පැත්තට ගන්නවා කියන එක අන්තිම මාරුවට ඒ රිහැබිලිටි කරන්න බෑ. ඉතින් ඒ මිනිහට මුදලට වැඩිය වටිනවා අර ෆ්‍රීඩම්. ඉතින් එහෙම කොටසක් අවුරුදු ගාණක් තිස්සේ කන්ඩිෂන් කරාට පස්සේ මේක දැන් අපි අනිත් පැත්තෙන් පටන් ගන්න නැද්ද අපිට ඉන්නේ. right? අනිත් අපි දැන් කතා කරන මේ 3-wheelers මේ ඉකොනොමික් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එකක හින්දා මේ ටික මේ ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් 3-wheelers බවට පත් කරන්නේ. ඒකත් නැෂනල් ග්‍රිඩ් එකට හයි කරලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක එහෙමනම් සෝලාර් පැනල් එකකින් charge වෙන්න ඕනේ නැත්නම් ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් කතාවට ගන්න. ආයෙත් මේකට මිස්ට්‍රේන් එක. ඒක නිසා පොඩි සෝලාර් පැනල් එකකින් තමන්ගේ බැටරිය charge කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන විදියට අර මේ කට්ටිය මේ බජාජ් කරන කට්ටියම එකක් කරා. ඒ කට්ටිය හැබැයි අර බැටරිය ලොකු හින්දා දෙන්නට යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක ප්‍රායෝගික නැහැ. මොකද ත්‍රිලර් වුණාම 4 දෙනෙක්ට යන්න පුළුවන්කම තියෙනවානේ. ඒ කට්ටිය හදපු එකේ මම හිතන්නේ ඩේවිඩ් පීරිස්ලා ලොකු බැටරියක් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් අපි කිව්වේ දැන් නැනෝ ටෙක්නොලොජි පාවිච්චි කරලා පුළුවන් තරම් බැටරිය පොඩි කරලා පැසෙන්ජර් කාර් වැඩි කරලා මොකද එතකොට ලංකාවේ ඉකොනොමි එකේ තියෙන මේක ලොකු ස්ට්‍රේන් එකේ ලොකු අඩුවක් වෙයි. ඒක නිසා ලේබර් ඉෂුව එක තියෙනවා. ඉතින් ලේබර් ඉෂුව තියෙන කන්ස්ට්‍රක්ෂන් ඉන්ඩස්ට්‍රි එක. right? අපි දැක්ක චැනල් එකේ කවුද වැඩ කරන්නේ කියලා අපි දකිනවා. ඒක නිසා මොකක්ද මේකට නැත්තම් සොලියුෂන් එක? We have to get these people back. right? ඉතින් කොහොමද මෙහෙමද ඕක දැන් ඉතිහාසය ගත්තාම 800 ගණන් වලත් තේ වගාවට ඉන්දියාවේ මිනිස්සු ගියේ නැහැ නේ අපේ මිනිස්සු ඊළඟ වැඩ කරනවා. right? අපේ මිනිස්සු එහෙම ඒ එතන ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. right? I think ඒකට we have to craft a strategy as to how to get these people back. Because these construction industries, they also have to go. If there is a labor shortage and if the government does not have a solution, if the government cannot win these people back, because of their wrong policies. The three years එලවට තත්ත්වයට ගියේ ඒකනේ 1.5 billion. ඒක යනකම් කවුරුත් ඔක ඉෂුව කරේ දැන් කොහොමද politicians අපිට ගන්නෑ. මොකද 1.5 billion කියන්නේ 1.5 families. ඒක ලංකාවේ තීරණාත්මක සාධකයක් වෙනවා ඊළඟ නායකත්වයක් හරි රටේ පොලිටිකල් මොකක් හරි චේන්ජ් එකක් වෙනකොට. ඒකට කවදාවත් අත ගන්න නෑ. හැබැයි මේ අවුන්ට් එක මම දැක්ක ටිකක් හොඳ තීරණයක් කරන් දෙනවා වයස සීමාවක් ගෙනල්ලා මම දන්නේ ප්‍රායෝගිකව කොච්චර ඒක ඇප්ලයි වෙනවද කියලා. මේට වැඩි වයස වෙන්න ඕනේ තීරණයක් කියලා වන්නේම කියලා. නමුත් ඔයාලා දකින්නද සිංගප්පූරු හරි කොහේ රටවලට ගියාම ඒ රටේ ඉන්න වයසක අය තමයි ඒ රස්සාව කරන්නේ. මොකද ඒ කට්ටියට ආයේ හાર્ඩ් ලේබර් වලින් ඒ රටට දෙන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. ඒ කට්ටිය තම කාලේ මහන්සිලා වැඩ කරලා සයිට්ස් වල හරි මොනවා හරි එක්ක ඒ කට්ටිය දැනුමෙන් වැඩ කරලා අන්තිමට රිටයර්මන්ට් ඒජ් එකේ තමයි බලන්න සිංගප්පූරු චංගේ හරි තායිලන්ත හරි ගියාම ටැක්සි ඩ්‍රයිවර්ස් ටික ඔක්කොම වයසක අය ඉන්නේ. තායිලන්ත තමයි නේ ඔය සිංගප්පූරු වගේ රටවල. ජපාන වලත් එහෙමයි වයසම කට්ටිය තමයි ඉන්නේ. අර ටැක්සි එක ගහලා තියෙනනේ යාගේ වයස සමහර අය අවුරුදු 70 සමහර 80යි. රයිට් ඔක්කොම අවුරුදු 60 කට කට්ටිය ඉන්නේ. ඉතින් ඒකින්ද අර ප්‍රයිම් ලේබර් එක පොලිසි එකක් තියෙනනේ ගවර්න්මන්ට් එකේ හරියට ඩිරෙක්ට් කරගන්න. ඉතින් ඒ ටික හිට මෙහෙට ගිහිල්ලා දැන් because of the wrong policies දැන් අපි එරිලා ඉන්නේ. එතකොට දැන් අපි උත්තරේ හොයන්න වෙන එකට අපි වරද්දාගත්ත තැන උල. So මේ ඔක්කොම අපි හරහා අදා ගන්න ඕනේ අපි next week අඟහරුවාදා අද උදේ මිස්ටර් අපේ හිටපු ඩෙපියුටි ගවර්නර් සෙන්ට්‍රල් බැංක් එකේ මිස්ටර් විජේවර්ධන මගෙත් එක්ක අද ඩොක්ටර් විජේවර්ධන අද ඉන්ටර්විව් එකක් කරා. ඒක පත්‍රයයි ඩේලි FT එකේ අඟහරුවාදට ඒකත් ඔය වගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් මම අහලා තියෙනවා. ඒකට මම උත්තරයක් දීලා තියෙනවා. මේ ඕක ඉතින් වැලියුස් ටික ඉන්කල්කේට් කරන්න ඕනේ පොඩි කාලේ ඉඳලා. මොකද මේකට මේ ඉමීඩියට් දැන් මේ කට්ටිය කොහොමද අපි ආපහු ගන්න කියලා ඉමීඩියට්ලි සොලියුෂන් එකක් නැහැ. මේ කට්ටිය සල්ලි වලින් මොටිවේට් කරන්න බෑ සහෝදරයෝ. But we have to win them back, we have to face it up strategically. අද බලන්න මම අර කිව්වා වගේ ප්‍රාදේශීය සභාවේ 15000යි මම කරන 40000ක් රයිට් නමුත් මට 1000ක් බෑ ගන්නවා වගේ රයිට් නමුත් අර 15000 කියන්නේ ඒකේ වෙනට මොකද ඉන්ටෙන්ෂන් එක කියලා රයිට් 56000ක් නොමිනේෂන් දෙනවා මේ රටේ.
So I have one question. Like what movement suggestions to give to someone, some kind of engineer, young engineer, who is part of and who have the kind of idea of starting their own business, like manufacturing business, like you. Do you have any suggestions to give them? Like I'm looking for something like I want to start my head that either that labor intensive focus on labor intensive process. Like at the university, like to travel the world and be other places, or to read libraries, or something, or things like that. For people to start entrepreneurship.
Yeah, my advice now, because although I started on something labor intensive, I do not necessarily advise everyone to get into something labor intensive, because of course we had an advantage because labor was abandoned in this country a good 15 years ago. But then if you look at what is happening today, Uber with their software, they have become, the biggest company, right? That have, on transportation, Uber, right? Then Airbnb is the biggest hotelier without owning a single hotel. Uber does not have a single vehicle. So all these software developers in USA, they are taking the businesses to their hand. They are creating platforms. And when you look at that business models, you cannot imagine of a business that will not be taken over by software developers. So I met a bunch of young people in Gampaha. He had in fact sold his house. He's so passionate about a software that he's developing, right? So he's developing a software. We have what is called PickMe. We have a software called PickMe. The PickMe app picking, that is for passenger transport. So what that person from Gampaha is developing a platform for goods transportation, and I know that's going to be a very good map, right? So he's so sure, and that is now new area that we got to think. Mage generation again, the next generation business they are tech savvy, right? It's got the other business is not you have to think of technology. So all these big companies, may go dark inventories are again the Mambagi companies company. You take Facebook, all other companies. So even in Sri Lanka, you can have even companies like Kapruka or Ikman.lk. the amount of money that making අපි හිතන ගන්න නෙමෙයි. That's huge. Because මම දන්නවා Beekman.lk එක දවසට transaction 40000ක් වෙනවලු ඉතුරු. 40,000 transactions a single day. Right? ඉතින් ඒකෙන් අර පොඩි ගාන රුපියල් 100ක් තියාගත්තා කියලා බලන්න එක transaction. The amount of money that they are making. So when you think of new businesses, you think of these new developments in the world as well. Because අර මම කිව්වා වගේ දැන් එයා කියන්නේ දැන් අපි හිතමු යාපනයට යනවා ලොරියක්. ගිහිල්ලා පොරොන්දරුවේ හරි අනුරාධපුරේ හරි ඉන්න කොවියා දන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ ලොරිය ජාපනයේ ඉඳලා හිස් වෙන්නේ කියලා. හැබැයි එයාට අර පික්මි එක වගේ platform එකක් තියෙනවා නම් එයා දන්නවා මේ වෙලාවේ මේ ළඟ තියෙන කොළඹ යන හිස් ලොරිය මොනවද කියලා එයාගේ app එකේ එයා දන්නවා. ඉතින් එහෙම apps දැනටම ලංකාවේ develop කරලා තියෙන ඉන්න ඒක එයා develop කරයි. හැබැයි අනිත් එක තමයි අපි food items අපි flip markets වල ගිහලා බැලුවොත් ඒ food items වලින් 50% තියෙන transport cost එක. Transportation cost එක තමයි 50%. ඒතර මේ වගේ app එකක් ඇවිල්ලා අපි ලංකාවේ තියෙන transportation හරියට හරි අපි හරියටම utilize කරොත් හරියට maximize කරොත් utilization එක ඒ food cost එකක් ගොඩක් අඩු කරන්න පුළුවන්. So technology is a great enabler. ඒ technology පැත්තෙනුත් හිතන්න. අනිත් එක තමයි ඒ තමන්ගේ idea එකට you have to be passionate. මම මුලින්ම කිව්වා වගේ. That should be something close to your heart. අර තව කවුරුත් කරන හින්දා එහෙම නෙමෙයි. අපි හැම කෙනෙක්ම ඉපදෙනකොට ඒ වයිද ඒක දැන් එක එක්කෙනෙක් දේවල් කැමති. ඒකිට තමයි ලෝකේ පවතින හැම කෙනෙක්ම එකම දෙයකට කැමති වෙනවා නම් හරියන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක නිසා look find yourself. අර ස්ටීව් ජොබ්ස්ගේ ස්පීච් එකේ කියනවා වගේ ස්ටැන්ෆෝඩ් යුනිවර්සිටි එකේ එයා කියන්නේ ඉවෙන් වගේ දැනේ කවදා හරි ජීවිතේ මම මෙතනට තමයි යන්න ඕනේ කියලා. අන්න ඒ ඔස්සේ යන්නේ. ඉතින් ඉව හරිද නැද්ද කියලා බලන්න එයා කියන්නේ ඊට පස්සේ අරලා බලන්න ඩොට්ස් ටික අපි මෙච්චර කාල ආව පාර. ඒ ඩොට්ස් ටික යා කරාම අපිට හිතා ගන්න පුළුවන් ඉස්සරහට අපි කොහොමද ඔතෙන්ට යන්නේ කියලා. So that's the advice that I can give you. Yeah. Right. So thank you very much once again.
Once again, thank you very much, and all the participants today here for this guest lecture. And I invite you, sir, again to the stage. We really appreciate your presence today and your time you committed for this inspirational motivation and also the answering the questions, right? And so we really expect your further involvement in our entrepreneurship forum in future initiatives. So we have a small token of appreciation. I invite Engineer Lalit Pallegama to present the token of appreciations to Mr. Rohan Pallewatta. So please accept our sincere thanks. Thank you very much. So last but not least, I must thank to CEO of Executive Committee, Secretary of ISL and Organizing Committee of Entrepreneurship Forum to have this guest lecture prepared for you. And we are inviting you to engage with our future initiatives and guest lecture programs of the ISL Entrepreneurship Forum. So I end up the talk with this quote. So we learned everything today. So we have to get out of the mindset by having to do something. Instead, we have to get into the mindset, getting to do something. You just start doing it if you have the mindset to become an entrepreneur. So I wish you all the best and have a great evening. Thank you.